Hey gang, I wanted to add a second video on how to convert because although the other one has good information, it just wasn't detailed enough. First thing I want to mention is when you write down kilo and hecto and deca and deci and centi and milli, the other instructor didn't ever give you the abbreviations. So kilo is abbreviated with a lowercase k, and hecto is abbreviated with a lowercase h, and so on. The tricky ones are deca and deci because they both start with the letter D. So deca is abbreviated in the metric system DA, and deci is just simply D. Now, how are you going to remember that? Well, centi ends in I, milli ends in I, so deci ends in I. I guess that may help you out that these three here all have only one letter. So that's the first thing you need to know. The second thing you need to know is if you didn't have this chart, you need to be able to duplicate it. So you need to be able to say to yourself, okay, we have kilo all the way on the left and milli all the way on the right. And I don't know if you ever came up with some sort of mnemonic device to remember these sort of things, but I've heard a bunch over my years teaching this, and some of them go like this. One I've heard a long time ago was King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. So, if you're an auditory learner and you can remember, song lyrics, this may help you if you remember one of these sort of sentences. So K for kilo, H for hecto, D for deci, B for the base unit. I'm sorry, I misspoke. This D is deca, B for base unit, D for deci, C for centi, and for milli. That's one sentence, but years ago, a long time ago, I had a student who came from another school system who came up with this one. Or maybe she didn't come up with it, but she told it to me. So maybe someone taught it to her. So it's Karen has dandruff, but doesn't care much. I mean, dandruff is really just dry skin. It's not a big deal. But what do I like about this? Well, we still have K for kilo, and we still have B for base unit. But you notice something here. Dandruff is a DA word, where doesn't is just a DO word. So DA maybe will help you remember the abbreviation for deca and not confuse it with deci. So I encourage you to come up with your own method, but in some fashion you'll have to be able to remember that you have kilo, hecto, deca, and then your base unit, and then deci, centi, milli. One more refresher is they said that kilo is 1,000 times bigger than a base unit. So if you had 1 meter a kilo, you'd have 1,000 of them. Hecto is 100, and deca would be 10. This is just how the metric system is set up. Everything is created by multiples of 10. So on this side, you have 1/10, which you wrote down as 0.1, and then 1/100th, which you should have recorded as 0.01, and lastly 1/1000th, which is 0.001. Okay, so now we have all that stuff. That's great. But what about the practice? So before you even get to these, I want you to do a couple sample problems because you only had one to work with. So let's say you had 224.5 milliliters, and you were asked to convert that to some other unit. Maybe your boss needs it in liters, or maybe you're working with someone else somewhere in the world and they use decaliters. Who knows? So you have to solve for both of these. So again, I would start off by having my staircase and do exactly what you saw in the video. Find what are the unit you're giving, what's your starting point, ml. So that's going to be milli for milliliter, that's right here. What's your ending point? Well, we'll go to liters first. Remember, if it's only one letter, it has to be the base unit. Has to be. So our liter is here. So I'm going from milli to liters. So 1, 2, 3 jumps toward the left. So I take my decimal as it's written in my problem, move it 3 spots to the left, and I'm left with 0.2245 liters. You might look at that and say, whoa, this is a real small number. Well, this right here is a small number because this is 1,000 times bigger than one of these. So what's interesting, or hopefully you realize this, that as your unit gets larger, the actual number here, in order to stay equivalent, has to shrink and it gets smaller. And we'll see if that happens in the next scenario. So in the next scenario, we're starting again with milliliters, which is right here. But now we're going to DAL, and DA is deca. So deca is all the way over in this location. So now instead of going 3 spots, we have to go 1, 2, 3, a 4th spot. So now I move it from where it started, 1, 2, 3, another spot, so we fill in the hole with a 0. So 0.02245 would be my answer. Oh, that was a blast. Let's try another one. Let's just say that you start off with a decimal. You have 0.996, and let's say that's kilograms. And if for some reason you have to turn that into, we'll do decagrams. Let's say we have to turn that into grams, and let's say you have to turn that into milligrams. So again, you notice every time, until you have this committed to memory, it's helpful to have these prefixes recorded, so then I can look at my starting point, kilo, find my ending point, deca. We realize it's 2 hops to the right, boom, boom. Notice my number becomes smaller. I'm sorry, my number becomes larger. I get 99.6 because my prefix here, deca, is smaller than kilo. All right, we're going to do that again, but we're going to go all the way to grams. So we start at kilo, and we go boom, boom, boom. If it's only one letter, it has to be the base. So 4 spots now. I misspoke. 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. So move it 1 more spot. So 996. And lastly, milligrams. All the way here, all the way to the end. That's a far way to travel because it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6 spots to the right. So if I started back here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the new home for my decimal. I'd have to put in a couple of zeros. So now when I write this, it's 996,000. 996,000 milligrams. Does that help? I mean, we're at 8 minutes and 37 seconds into this video. What if you have to create a decimal? So we'll do one more. So let's say that let's just say that you had, what's something you might have? 1,296 milligrams, and for some reason you have to turn that into grams, and you have to turn that into kilograms. Who knows why, but that's what you're asked to do. So your starting point, milligrams on the line, over here with the M. Notice I'm ending at G. That's a single letter, so it's got to be the base. So in this case, I'm hopping 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. So I don't have a decimal written in this number, so we always assume if you don't have a decimal, it's got to be at the end. It's the only place it can be. So 3 spots to the left gives me 1.296. Notice my number became smaller because my unit is larger. And then all the way to kilo. Oh boy, another huge jump. So if I start at milli, originally, when I go all the way to kilo, 4, 5, 6, right? Did I count that correctly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's always good to double check. So then, let's start here, back where the original decimal was, because that's what our starting point was, milli. And I go 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You just have to add your zeros out in front, and I always add the 0 here. It's just a good indicator. It doesn't change the value at all, but it lets the reader know that that's a decimal and not just a smudge on your paper. So we have 0.00129 kilograms. So now we've extended this video to almost 11 minutes. I hope this goes well for you, and we'll see you soon.